follow it, but they did a little sightseeing tour over the United States. So, what happened?
Well, we're just happy to be here. We were flying LA to Chicago, and then Chicago catching the plane here to Barcelona. And 10 minutes before landing, pilot says, getting ready for landing, turn off all your things you've got. And the next thing we know, the plane is literally shaking up and down, going which way. It was pouring rain. We couldn't see anything outside but the deepest, darkest clouds. And so everyone on the plane, and I think you can verify, was dead silence. Excuse the word dead, but silence. And I don't think I have ever been in such turbulence ever. And Jerry's wife, Cindy, is a flight attendant, and after we got off the plane, I said, have you been in anything that bad before? Because that's the worst I've ever had. And if I could have been on my knees, I would have been running over with you and Cindy and saying, please, make it.
Yeah, I had private pilot's license, and I got to tell you, the palms of my hands were sweating. So 10 minutes, as Priscilla said, before landing, in Chicago, we had to go to Indianapolis. And because we didn't have enough fuel to circle the field for 2 hours. And then in Indianapolis, we only had, what, 17 minutes to refuel and everything, and the lady got real sick. And they had to bring in the ambulance, and so we just got off, had to go back. Then we had to go to Philadelphia because Chicago was still.
We had 17 minutes to get there, and then this lady decides, because she couldn't get off the plane, she lived in Philadelphia, she was living in Philadelphia, so we're thinking, how can this be? We only have 17 minutes, she's taking up all that time? I mean, she's sick, she doesn't get sick now. Well, the pilot said, okay, now that's out of the way, the ambulance took it, no more games. So she basically really wasn't sick, she just wanted to get off the plane because she lived there. So that delayed our whole flight.
Yeah, this sounds like the Travel Channel.
In the meantime, they called me. I said, hey, are you arriving? I mean, I was in Barcelona, I'm waiting for them. I said, no, now we're going to Philadelphia. I said, no, go to Barcelona. So, but finally they arrived yesterday without bags.
No luggage.
But also we worked it out, and everybody's here on the ship and everybody's happy. So
You never saw so many fingers doing the walking as far as communication, talking, I don't know, mics, telephones, oh my gosh, it was, listen, we're here, we're happy, we've got new clothes on, not new, but our clothes on, and we're excited to be here.
Thank you guys for being here.
Let's talk about Searcher. So it was it still is a huge success in the States, and it will come out in the next weeks in Europe, right?
The Searcher was a 3.5 HBO special in the United States, which aired last month of April, it is coming out Sony International the end of this month throughout Europe. And Priscilla and I have been working on this for years.
For years, yes, trying to find the right studio to do it, and we went. In fact, we were recommended to go to HBO by Mark Graboff. Remember, suggested going there?
That's
yes,
right. How many years ago was that?
Yeah, exactly. So we wanted to make sure that, and what took so long is making sure we got the right people to really understand what we wanted to do in this documentary. We didn't want it to be an ordinary documentary, talking heads, you know, this is actually it was actually just interviews, but not seeing us, which when you have a documentary and you have people talking during that documentary, it takes you out of the moment of what you're watching. If you're listening to it, then you can actually see the visual of what's going on. And HBO, Carrie Ballas got it from the very beginning, and he took it from there beyond, and we just...
Absolutely. Has anybody seen it here? I'm interested. Oh, so you know what we're talking about. Okay, great.
Did you like it? Yeah. I can't wait for all of you to see it. I just feel, you know, I got really nervous doing this, and Jerry knows. During we would see different parts of it that our director, Tom Zimney, who actually did the Bruce Springsteen documentary, and we love the idea, obviously, of having Bruce on board. But as we're going through the documentary, watching what Tom had done and where we were going as it continued, I started having anxiety attacks because I'm going, oh my God, I think we did the wrong thing. I don't know, this is going to be, fans and people love their icons, keep them on a pedestal, and of course, obviously, you know, when you love someone and follow them, and especially Elvis Presley, I kept thinking, oh my God, they hate us because this is so personal, so genuine, that it really humanized Elvis, and I was afraid that that would take away from what you felt about him and his work. This is really humanizing him so much, where I think you got to know him even better, who he was, but the fear of maybe crossing that line was too much. And the success of it proves that you enjoyed it and you felt even closer, I would think, right? Yes?
I can't tell you how many times, how many screenings I sat beside her, from rough cuts to when we went on promotion. And I have to say, all the years that I've known her, I've never seen her put so much heart and soul and was so worried, am I giving too much? And I said, no. Everything you're telling about, people are going to love him just that much more. And as far as we're concerned, there's no more documentary to be done.
No,
You know,
I felt,
this was the ultimate.
I said that's one thing going on. I said if they love them now, then they'll love him even more, because you get to see him as a human being and what he did, and his heart and soul, where it was with his music. We know where it went with his film, but anyway, we're really proud of it, and I hope you all love it. I hope you will see, you know, what we're talking about and embrace it.
I was in Memphis last year, and I was really impressed about this new area everywhere, and especially I was impressed about this beautiful new hotel. So when you start to do that, when you start planning to do that, because it's beautiful.
And Jerry knows this. Elvis Presley Enterprise was looking to have a hotel for a long time, and we had Heartbreak Hotel. Has anyone been to Heartbreak Hotel? Yes? Okay. And I know how fond everybody was of Heartbreak Hotel. Heartbreak Hotel was originally a Holiday Inn, and we renamed it Heartbreak Hotel. Of course, it was appropriate. We didn't want to have a Holiday Inn on the property. So that was a temporary hotel until we could build a right hotel, until we had the right feel, the right look, the right ambiance of what we felt all of you would like to have. And it was a long journey. We had 3 other architects come up with their version of what they thought it should be. Now, in looking at those designs, they just didn't fit with our vision, and I don't think it would have fit with any of your vision as well. The last one was that I went to see. The architect was from Las Vegas, and he had gotten so far with a design and with a prototype, we hadn't seen anything yet. So I said, I have to go and take a look. I went to Las Vegas and asked for a meeting with the architect. He canceled out on some meeting that he had. And I said, can we please see what we have here? And he lifted up this type of fabric, like a long piece of material that was over the prototype, and lifted it up. And I was absolutely taken aback by an Italian villa with fountains and statues and waterfalls and you can see Graceland. All the windows basically faced Graceland, which means that Graceland could see the hotel. And he had condos on the top where you could buy a condo as well. And that was so out of line of where we were going. First of all, we don't put Italy into Memphis. That would have been a joke, very first thing. It's not Elvis's style. It isn't anything that I don't think, it was just too elaborate, too fancy, too overdone, too glamorous. It just wasn't right. So we nixed that. So that was the third one. And then we came down to what we brought, that it had to be in line with Graceland, the southern feel, southern plantation feel, and complement Graceland and not take away from it, and yet have it large enough to where we could have all our fans for all these events. So that's where, in fact, I wanted to put shutters on the outside, but they wouldn't let us put shutters. So you see the green, like, kind of like, little, what do you call it, green borders on the windows, and that kind of represents shutters. They wouldn't let us do it because of the high winds, the tornadoes that have come in that would just fly off. So I think they, not that I think, that they put a stop to that, and they made it look as much like shutters as it could be. Anyway, that's the story. I didn't mean to get on and on about it, but that's what we have today, and I think all of you like it. We love it. We go to the founders room and we have our meetings and we talk and have drinks, and all the fans so far seem to really like it, so it's good.
I like your touch on it, where when you go through the hotel, it's you know, after a while you're staying at a hotel, instead of just seeing huge pictures that we've seen a lot and still enjoy, there would be a little color.
Thank
all
you.
those nice
Yeah.
touches.
Here, I know there's fans that say, and I've gotten notes saying, there's no Elvis, there's no pictures of Elvis. Why don't we see Elvis, okay? I'm going to tell you philosophy about it. First of all, Elvis hated pictures on himself. He thought that was too much on anything, even in our home, and even forever. He did not want pictures of himself around. I would put pictures of him and Lisa and, you know, just more, a little bit more personal, but nothing like advertising, he felt. So if you'll notice that I came up with the idea of just having his spirit there, you'll see part of the jumpsuit, or TCB, or his guitar, and you know that it's his. Those are actual photos of his. So you're seeing or looking at his vision, and yet the style of that hotel is all him. I mean, if there ever was a hotel, that is his look. That is more nothing. It wasn't something that you would see all over the place. It had to be special for him. It had to have his feel. The colors, they're all the colors that he loved. Fabric is all the fabric. The designs upstairs in the 18 suites are taken from places that he loved. So there's so much. People who know Elvis in that hotel, that is him. You don't need to have his picture. If you want, you know, you go into Grace and you feel his spirit. You don't see pictures all over. That one going up the staircase was basically the only one, but not all over. So that's the reason. It is his spirit and it is his soul. So you don't need to see the picture. We know him. We know what he looks like. So, and the other reason is because we have a lot of people who aren't fans. That, you know, not that they don't like Elvis, they must love his music and everything. And we have business people, we have locals, we have people from foreign countries, we have some people from Memphis, of course. But to keep not only having his music on all the time, and then seeing photos of him, it's like it's enforced. It's an enforced look. You know, look what you have. It doesn't need, sometimes less is more. You don't need to have it all over the place. Stands alone. Is that it? Pardon me?
You want to say something?
Hi.
I was listening. 2 years ago, you had this kind of girl conversation, and I remember you said even when Elvis woke up in the morning, he looked fantastic.
Yes, he did.
You know that.
Yeah, right? I would stare at him and think, oh my God, how can this be? I never ever saw him look bad at all. He woke up looking beautiful. He went to sleep looking beautiful.
But my question would be, or is, Elvis changed his styling 68, 69 completely. His hairstyle and the way he was dressing. So, which was your influence? Did you tell him, hey, can you change to maybe longer hair? Or what was your influence? You're a woman, you're a stylish person.
His hair was his thing. I wouldn't, I mean, the only, oh well, I will tell a story. I'm kind of going to go off a little bit on this. You may know a little of this. If Elvis, he didn't have his hair, could get his hair colored once. I think it was Sam that first did his hair before Larry? It doesn't matter. We had a hairdresser and he, what is it? Yes, his last name. So he that's okay. And he couldn't get a hold of him, and he was on a movie. And I said, I can do your hair. I can color your hair. Because I'm thinking you just go get black dye, right? And you color your hair. So I went to the drugstore and I got scissors, I got a little comb, I got a black dye. So I'm in this dressing room coloring his hair. And I forgot to get the, when you color and you have, you know, the black. As I'm coloring his hair, we're talking and I'm looking at his forehead and I'm going, oh my God, that's staining his forehead. I don't know how to get this off, right? So I'm going into the bathroom, getting soap, getting some water, and I'm rubbing and I'm running. Now the black is off and now his forehead is beet red. And now he's got to be on. The movie started in an hour and a half. Now I'm really starting to panic. So I ran to the makeup artist and I said, you have to help me. Just go in and look at his hair. You can kind of fluff it a little bit, but don't let him know that it's all red, and he just put some makeup on it to go. So he pulled it off really, really well. But the same with cutting his hair. Oh, I can cut your hair. I'll cut his hair. He had an ingrown child. I can cut that for you, and I can do it where it doesn't hurt. Well, I did it, but we had to take him to the hospital. He goes, what the hell? So, anyway. Get back on your story. Sorry about that. It wasn't really his hair. He had a specific look that he liked on his hair, and that was something that was his own and his style, which was great. I helped him more on the accessories, and I also got the original designer that after he had, you know, he had the suits at first, and he went to Bill Below. He was wearing the two-piece suits, beautiful suits. The problem was, every time that he would go down to do his karate moves, in a way that, you know, down on his knees and then coming back up again, he split his pants.
That was a problem.
That was a problem. That was, well, for him it was, but I think for the audience it wasn't so bad. So that's when he hired Bill Ballou to do his, who did the 68 special, to do a jumpsuit for him that had fabric that was much more pliable, and that's when actually the stretch fabric was just coming out, and Bill had told Elvis about that we could use this stretch material. And back in the day it wasn't, you know, that popular, but he found this fabric and made the suits just so workable for Elvis, so that's why he went on and used jumpsuits, because it was perfect for what he wanted to do and gave him the freedom of doing what he wanted to do. And as it progressed, Bill would add a little bit more because fans loved the jumpsuits on him. And the more that Elvis saw, and you can verify, that he loved the jumpsuits and people loved them, Bill started adding and embellishing a little bit more to make it really, it was for the audience. Elvis would go and he'd show Bill Ballou's design, the audience would start clapping, the whole audience would love it. So that's why Bill kept progressing into stories on the design itself. I would come in with a belt, you know, the big belt that he had on, that he'd wear. Well, I found that in Soho, New York, and that was black and with silver chains. And I gave it to Elvis and I said, this would look so cool with one of your jumpsuits. So he took it to Bill Ballou, and that was the design. From all the belts was that particular belt. Black cuff that he wore with a watch on it and with a chain. I bought that. the jewelry, the jewelry with the one with the claw that he would wear, that as well. So it was just things that I would brought that I would make the outfit a little bit cooler, a little bit. The French cuff, even before the appearances, I had French cut sleeves, French sleeves cut for his shirts. So anything else? I got carried away. Sorry. One thing led to another. Jerry, I think the guys used to go out and get his, occasionally go get his pants and his shirts.
There was a little store on Santa Monica in California. It's very famous now, but it was called Fred Siegel's. And me and Alan Fortas and Richard Davis, on Saturdays we go. We made about $90 a week, and we go to Fred Siegel's and buy stretch pants and stuff. And we'd pick out stuff for Elvis, take it to the house. He would pick what he wanted, and we'd take the other stuff back.
There was another one too, that's now in the Valley, on Coldwater and Ventura. Yes, and that's crazy now think about it. Anyway, that was, you know, Elvis. We all knew his style. We knew that it had to be a bit different, that it can't be just a regular shirt. If you go all the way back to his early pictures, I mean, he was on top of his game. You didn't see anyone dressing like he was, and that was his style, that was his look, that's what he envisioned for himself, and boy did it work, because I think every other entertainer tries to capture that look, and no one can wear it like him. It just doesn't look right on other people. He carried it off because he felt comfortable and very cool in it. He was cool.
He was a trendsetter.
But he also decided at this time that he will go back live on stage, and he will change the musicians. He was looking for new musicians, and he decided to call James. So, but you were around him, so you were watching all this.
Yeah, Jerry and I got to see all that. Yeah.
And we have all these guys, we have them here now. So,
what's interesting too, we used to watch television, watch the Ozzie and Harriet show. And James was in the Ricky Nelson band when he was like a young teenager. And I think that's the first place where Elvis saw James. But the first person Elvis was going to, when he was going back to Vegas and live shows, was Glenn Campbell.
Who?
Glenn Campbell.
Oh, yes.
Glenn had played guitar on some of Elvis's sessions. And he asked maybe Joe Esposito to check out Glenn Campbell. And Elvis didn't know, but Glenn was becoming a big star. So
he was no longer backup.
Yeah, so then when he said, well, forget about Glenn, can we get in touch with James Burton?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
and then Elvis actually asked James to help him put the band together. And they talked for hours on the phone. And I'm going to tell you, James brought in Ronnie Tutt, and when they started working together, Elvis also talked a lot about music with Ronnie. Ronnie and I were talking about it we've talked about it before. Ronnie was a big musical influence on Elvis as well.
Yeah, he put together a great team. You know, James, he relied on James because James knew the who's who in the industry. And boy, when he was, you know, the band that he picked out with Wilkinson as well, it was like the quartet almost, as much as Elvis loved quartets. He was putting together that same feel for rock and roll and ballads. And it couldn't have been a greater team, because today, I mean, they're so famous, but they're so respected in the industry, even before Elvis picked them out.
Yeah.
So.
And then Glenn D, he was somebody, not only a great keyboard player, but if Elvis, you know, Elvis was always thinking, not just clothes, music, everything. And he would have a thought after a show or whatever. While we were all partying, Glenn D was in his room arranging what Elvis's thoughts were, where he could do it the next night on stage.
Great. So, thank you. Great answer.
What was your question?
No, you know, the next question from my side, that's my question now. is when Elvis was at home and he decided to sing some gospel music or some blues songs or whatever, and so he talked to you. I was asking, what do you think about this song? Should I put it in the show or not?
No.
Never. So
Never.
it was always his decision?
Oh my gosh, no, Elvis knew music. I mean, he's self-taught, and Jerry can verify. He really is self-taught. His natural feel for music, he had it when he was very young. And yes, gospel music was the first music that he heard, of course, and then blues and country, but gospel was his first in music. And he just naturally had that ability to feel the music because he saw people responding in the churches to the music. So it gave him the freedom to feel as well as a young child. People think, oh, you know, when he wiggled his leg, that was all, you know, for effect and all. No, that's him feeling the getting lost in the music, not even feeling, just getting lost in the music and his body going with it. It was when he was on Ed Sullivan and Steve, his name's Steve Allen, he, you know, was ridiculed pretty much because of how he moved and what was that about to tease the teenage girls. Elvis was, I mean, literally had no idea why that was even brought up because obviously these people didn't know music at all, but thought that that was his way of getting into the teenagers. No, that was not the case at all. What you saw is what you got with him. He was not a guy to think that way. He wasn't thinking if I do this, the girls will start screaming. But I will say, when he went on the Grand Ole Opry show, no, was it Grand Ole Opry that he was on? No, when oh no, when he was performing at one of his big gigs, and they were all screaming when he first started, and he ran out and he said, what was
Park show.
Yeah, that's right. He goes, what did I, you know, what did I do? What are they screaming at? And the guy said, whatever, go back out and do it again. He had no idea. He was just feeling it, having fun, and loving it. So that was so him. Yeah. I forgot the question now again. I guess I'm carried away. What did you ask me?
But it was
I
a
do
nice
go off
answer.
on a rampage.
It was a good answer anyway. Have you ever been with Elvis at the studio when he did recordings? You were watching him with
Yes, of course. We've all got great stories. I mean, you've got the best on If I Can Dream. Yeah. Again, when he would record. I mean, I think I went to Nashville twice. And it really wasn't a place that I felt comfortable because this really was his place. He created it there. He had so much camaraderie with his band, and they worked together so well. And what he thought, and he would tell them, "Let's do this. I want to hear that." I mean, he really, as you saw in the Searcher. So I didn't really go that much, but I think I went to the very best one, and that's Memphis Sound. I mean,
yeah.
And
Was that the Chips moment?
Yes, it's Chips moment.
That was the session that turned around the second part of his career. You know, the Chips moment. Yeah, American Studios.
And I was there for that, and boy, I was just blown away. And the reason why it was very special is because there's songs that he wanted to do, songs that he picked out, not songs that he had to do an album for, or movie songs for a movie. You know, they were not, those were created songs for those scenes. Those songs, you know, they weren't handpicked by him. That he had to do them for the scenes or to get an album out. And whenever he was to get an album out or had a deadline, he'd always go over the deadline because he was not inspired by any of the songs, and you could verify that for sure because you guys waited a long time to get it going. But
and you know, he was very, he didn't tell people so much, Priscilla, you know this, about what his thought process. But when you look back, and we've done documentaries and TV specials, and you really study it. But what he would do to the studio, he would get there, and people thought he was wasting studio time. But he knew that these musicians and people, no matter how successful they were, he wanted them to be comfortable when they started recording.
Yes,
You
he
know?
would walk in and greet them all, say hello, get in the chair, sit around, talk to them, talk shop.
How's the family?
Pardon me?
How's the family?
Yeah, and talk shop with them, because the last thing he wanted to do was intimidate. He did not want to intimidate anyone, so he would, honestly, and it would be as long as he felt that he finally got them to where they can laugh and joke and have fun. I mean, it was brilliant. It really was brilliant. Most guys go in, you know, okay, you're sitting here, let's play, let's jam a little bit, let's try to get it, blah, blah, blah. But for him, he wanted to make them all feel comfortable first. It may take an hour, it may take 45 minutes. It was as long as he took to make sure he knew they could give him what he wanted, feel comfortable, and make the music that they should all make and feel and love. So that was his process. You're absolutely right.
Then he got down to business, and he would record all night, and you really didn't mess with him. You know, that's why we said in The Searcher he was the most underrated producer in rock and roll, or maybe music history. You know, he picked the songs. He picked the musicians, he picked the vocals. He said, you know what, I hear the bass coming in here. It was brilliant.
It was brilliant, and it could just be a song title. It could just be a song title, Hurt. You know, well, actually, Timmy Euro is the first who actually sang that song. He played that song to me years ago. He loved Timmy Euro's voice and the power that she had in that song. And he said, someday, and this is early on in the 60s, he said, someday I want to do that song. And boy, did he sing the hell out of it. I mean, oh my God, it was perfect. And so, you know, I say this many times when I was doing the show with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, when I would talk to the audience, how much he felt his music, and he picked song titles out that related to songs, related to all the feelings that all of us have had, whether it be losing someone, whether it be death or a loved one, or, you know, or whether it be a song that just touched your soul, whether it be even in gospel. It was songs every one of us as human beings could relate to, because we're all here. We all have emotions, we all have everything, and if you'll notice his choices, but he was that way even as a kid. He was that way. This is not new. It was from the very beginning.
You know, I met him when he was 19 years old, and he was a thinker then, and he didn't even have a hit record. But, you know, guys back then, you knew there was something special. You know, you play football and you hit guys, you know, on the back or slap them, you know, fun things. You really kind of picked your time with Elvis. He was special.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of special we've met over the years because of Elvis and your own accomplishments, Priscilla. We've met a lot of stars and worked with and have friends. Elvis was the only star that when I saw him as a kid, before he had a movie or a record, he was a star. You know, the other people, they become stars because of their
Plan for him. And I said, you're kidding. I mean, you met him at what, 17, 18? He said, yes, he told me that. That God had a place for him, and that was his mission to fulfill that.
I saw your show last year, or this year, no, last year and this year, 2 times, with this Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, and I was more than impressed. But first of all, I have to say, when Elvis started to sing, just on screen, people started to get crazy.
Yeah.
So, how is this? Is the first question. Plus, do you have any plans to do it again? I mean, that was a great project. Everybody loved it, right?
Listen, that was bigger than I ever thought it could be. Against all odds, again, I took another risk when I was asked about doing an album with Elvis's songs with a Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. And Jerry knows this. I I said, oh my God, this is unbelievable, because this is something that Elvis always wanted to do. He loved an orchestra, so much so that if he ever saw an orchestra and a maestro on TV, he'd jump on the couch, he'd have his cane, and he'd be directing the orchestra as the maestro did. I mean, really getting into it, you know. And we were just, you know, looking, and obviously we're all having a good time, and he had said that that's one of his dreams, was to have an orchestra. And of course we had a small one with Joe Gershio. And the biggest compliment I had when I went to Sony and I said, please, we've got to do this album, they were very reluctant. They really wasn't quite sure about this, with an orchestra doesn't mix rock and roll, an orchestra, especially a 54-piece orchestra. So I swear to you, I will go out myself. That's how much I believe in it. That's how much, I mean, and then I thought, I am taking a risk. I did not know how you fans or the public would take it, not knowing that Elvis felt like this. So I said, I'm either going to get shot or, you know, never seen again somewhere in an island. But so it has to be done. And so that's when we went, and Sony 3 months agreed, and Don Reedman, you know, went to Sony 3 times and they refused him. But I said, I'll go out and you know, PR the show, do the show, anything. I believe in it that much, but never to the extent that it has been all over the world. I was just in Argentina, I was in Chile. In Chile it was 12,000 people in Santiago, Chile, and I get chills right now when I think about, when I see that audience. It was unbelievable. All over the world it's been like this. We went to Australia, twice in Europe, we went to the Eastern Europe, Prague, Budapest. I'm telling you, all of you, it's as if he was alive today. That screen, the big screen that came up and came down, and then we had 2 small ones for each side. And I always go out and look at the audience when I'm doing the show to see how they're all reacting, if they're enjoying it or not. In Santiago, Chile, they just watched, and their eyes all were that big. And that was 12,000. And I'm thinking, oh my God, they're not into this. They're not, what is going on? You know, they weren't really dancing, or, you know, some were crying and they were tearful. And then when the show was over, after Trilogy and then If I Can Dream, they all, 12,000 people, stood up with all their phone lights, their flashlights, it lit up the whole stadium. And we were sobbing in the back because we had no idea, because they're very, very respectful in those countries, especially Chile. They're very respectful. Then we went to Argentina and Buenos Aires. That venue only held 5,000. Now that was a different scene. My God, when the screen came down, they were already up. They were already applauding. They were yelling and screaming. And then they would cry and smile and laugh and dance in the aisles after every song. It, again, was amazing. Now, we only had a 29-year-old maestro. And the audience was wanting more. So he went, do you want more? They all stood up. And then it took a little bit, and then at the end, he gave him one song, and then at the end, you know how in the soccer games, how you have this, oh, the whole stadium does that? That's what was happening in that stadium, and they wouldn't stop, so the maestro came out and did 3 more songs, and they didn't want it to stop. And when you see this, it's just thinking, my God, this man had so much. I don't know, and I said this on stage, I don't know anyone 40 years after their death can still fill stadiums, and that is true. It's breathtaking.
Priscilla, my final question for tonight.
For Jerry?
He's watching me all the time. We had a deal with this.
Ah, that's right.
Okay, my final question is about 2019. So I say nothing. Maybe you found it out, but there would be a great anniversary, 2019. So do you have any plans for the Elvis Week 2019?
Of course, we always have plans, but less is more, right? I don't want you knowing it now, because then it's going to ruin it before you have it. Surprises, the element of surprise.
Okay. So we will not talk about, but if they're good plans.
Of course, yes.
I think they're great plans. Yeah, it will be like a... Could be.
Could be.
Could be. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say thank you for joining us. Thank you to Priscilla Presley. We see each other in an hour. 4 o'clock we start with the signing session. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Everyone.